Hey, Deanna, so we letting everybody in now?
I'm trying to just let in our team first, in case y'all wanted to talk about something.
I think we should just at this point just let everybody in. I want to make the unilateral decision.
So then the interpretation, she was asking me.
And then pro bono ASL is the folks that we want to. Oh yeah, is she on here? That we want to pin.
Yeah. Shoot. What's our Spanish interpreter? Okay, let me just admit.
Joanna. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Okay, hopefully I'll stay in this time.
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. We're just.
Oh, no problem.
All right, we'll get started in a few minutes, y'all. Just hatching out some things and glad everyone can make it on this evening. We hear a lot of thumping, babysitting my niece's bunny, and we call him Bad Bunny, and he really is a hot mess, so. Yeah. I need to learn how to say hot mess in sign language. Yeah. Oh, okay, I need that one. Thank you. And let's give it up for our interpreters. We have ASL interpreter Mark with us, and then we have Johanna, who's doing our Spanish translation.
Hello. Hola.
Hola, hola. And if folks need interpretation in Spanish, Johanna will take care of you. And did I get the, it is Johanna, right? See, I recognize you. You've worked with us before. Awesome.
It worked,
Awesome.
Diana. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and we're gonna listen to some Janet Jackson. I know, but hey, I'm the host, so also the DJ for the day. And you can't go wrong with the Queen of Pop. They say Queen of Pop. All right, I got that one too. Thank you, Mark. And if folks want to go ahead and put their name, their pronouns, what city you're repping, where are you from, where are you joining us from, please do so in the chat. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate. My name is Angie Valderas, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm from the IE, Occupied Serrano land here in the inland region, so welcome. You guys see it, Deanna? Just let me know when y'all ready. Can y'all hear the music? Can you hear me? You can't hear me.
No, but I want to.
We can hear you, not the music.
You can hear me, but not the music?
No, it's all.
Okay, I want you to hear both because it's not fair if you can't hear Janet.
There it goes. It's kind of faint.
All right. Well, tonight's my stage, not Janet's, so it's all right. I'm just kidding. All right, we got folks from LA, Occupied Tonga, we have OC in the house, East LA, East Los, all right. Palm Springs, San Diego, WeHo, all right. Nice, Paris. SB in the house, San Bernardino, all right, Palo Verde. Let's see who else. Bell Gardens, okay. Ukaipa. Oh, we have University of Redland students in the house. Shout out. Congrats to those graduating. All right. Cal State Northridge. I went there, so hello, fellow Matador. Son. Jody's in the house in San Bernardino. Hi, Jody. All right.
Okay.
We got Boyle Heights. Boyle Heights in the house. Let's see. We got about 66 folks here. All right, all right.
Wow. Wow.
Ontario, oh, Ricardo, welcome. How are you? All right, we're gonna start in 1 minute. Grab a drink, some popcorn. I'll make sure this is fun for y'all. I got a great crew here, so we're gonna make sure you get a lot of information, and we're gonna make this fun, a safe space. All right, and also once again, we have interpretation. We have ASL interpretation, thanks to Mark. Hey, Mark. And then we have Spanish interpretation, thanks to Johanna. So, si necesitan interpretación en español, we got it. All right, Yvette, Moval in the house. Oh, we got the Valley, San Fernando, the Valley 818 in the house. Woo. Echo Parque, I know Echo Park very well. All right, Echo Park. All right. Well, excuse me, Mix Jackson, I'm taking over right now. So, oh, LBC in the house. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining us. This is our ISR Indirect Source Rule warehouse webinar. So thank you for joining us. Oh, Lake Alsor, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let's move on to the next slide. I promise you won't hear me talk all day long, so. All right. So this is brought to you by Sierra Club, People's Collective for Environmental Justice, Earth Justice, East Yards Community for Environmental Justice. So give it up to all these orgs, and of course our volunteers and our community for making it happen. All right, LA, Commerce. Oh, all right. So next slide. All right, we want to acknowledge, we give thanks to original stewards of the lands we currently occupy, Tongva, Chumash, Ashiman, Tatavan, Serrano, and Korea peoples who have and continue to protect land and water. As California continues to fight the pandemic and the climate crisis, we understand that we must quickly reckon with the climate impacts that have resulted from displacement and genocide of indigenous people. So making sure we always take care of Mother Earth, y'all. All right, our community norms, here's a few of them. We ask folks to make space for voices that feel the firsthand effects of pollution, support the facilitator, speak up when you can, be respectful and mindful of personal power and privilege, judgment-free space. So don't be salty, okay? Not up in here, thank you. And Vegas rules, what's said here stays here. Respect pronouns. We have 90 minutes on the call. Let's be aware of the time together. Next slide. So we shared our name. Oh, if folks could, I know folks shared their name, but if folks could maybe share what brought you here today in the chat, if folks want to. And I'll take a couple folks if folks want to, maybe 3 or 4 people want to mute themselves and tell me why what brought you here today? Go ahead. But if folks are shy like me, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Hey, Angie, it's Jody. How are ya? I'm here because I want clean air in the valley.
Oh, thank you.
We're tired of not being able to breathe or see across the valley, and the warehouse businesses are just making it worse.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? If you're speaking, I can't hear anyone, so.
I'm Robin
Club
from
member, environmentalists, we have folks who, they just want to breathe clean air.
Was that you, Robin?
Yeah.
Did you?
I'm
Go ahead.
Robin from Reseda in the San Fernando Valley, and I'm here because I'm not the greatest driver and I don't like to drive, and this is perfect being on Zoom. And so I can at least get information for the meeting on Friday and participate on Friday.
Well, thank you.
I'm Craig from
All right.
Palos Verdes, and I'm primarily focused on Mother Earth, as you put it, and making sure my 12-year-old has a place to play in when I'm, when he wants to.
All right, well, thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, and thank you all for sharing. Continue to share in the chat. And then why are we here? And we're gonna give some rule updates, and we're also gonna have a call to action. We're gonna go in depth about their indirect source rule and what's May 7th is all about, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What's gonna be happening, the layout of AQMD. If y'all have any questions, never made public comment before, no worries, we got you. So together we can advocate for rulemaking to regulate how operations emit pollution from warehousing. Right now, the rule can have more stringency. We know industry is going to come hard on Friday and want to weaken this rule. So we can't let this happen. And we gotta make sure we get a vote. The rule is not your typical pay to pollute policy. We are working together to stop business as usual. They think they could just come into our communities and destroy our health and our communities. So it's time to stop that. Your voice matters to a board that does not hear from groups like us, community, and so forth. So on May 7th, so this meeting starts at 9 o'clock. I just want folks to be aware of that. But it's gonna be an all day long thing. And of course, they drag it on. And we probably won't get to public comment till about 1 p.m. Yes, I'm glad we're virtual, but just imagine like we would be there at the AQMD board in Diamond Bar all day long if we were, but yeah. The agenda item is number 27. So next slide, please. And our first poll question is, what region are you joining us from? I know folks shouted it out, but if we could just take the time to take this poll, and we will give folks the results. All right. Give folks a couple more seconds to fill it in. And
72% of folks have voted so far.
all right. Oh. All right, so we have 46% from the LBC from Long Beach. In second place, we have San Bernardino County, occupied Serrano land. We got Riverside and Tonga and so forth. Not trying to start a turf war, we're just sharing. So next slide. All right. So I am going to go ahead and hand this over to Carlo de la Cruz. Carlo, go ahead, take it away.
Thanks, Angie. And I'm glad to be here with everyone. Let me introduce myself firstly. My name is Carlo de la Cruz, and I'm with the Sierra Club based in Tongva territory, also known as Los Angeles. And I want to first start off today by really pointing to why we're here talking about AQMD first. And then we're going to be able to talk about the warehouse rule. But before we talk about the rule specifically, we wanted folks to know that air quality is a very complicated regulatory mess. What does that mean? It means that there are very clear lines on who is actually responsible for protecting and cleaning our air, because it's different depending on where you live in the country and depending on what state you live in. So for everyone who lives in Southern California, that includes Los Angeles County, Orange County, and the counties of Inland Region, San Bernardino County and Riverside County. For everyone who lives in these Southern California counties, the main body that's ultimately responsible for protecting our air is the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And even when we have other agencies, either at the statewide level at CARB, also known as the California Air Resources Board, or even at the federal level, with the Environmental Protection Agency, also known as EPA, they are ultimately only giving marching orders and regulations that the South Coast AQMD then needs to fulfill and implement in our region. And so that's all to say that when it comes to who is ultimately responsible for protecting our health and our air quality, these folks are it. There isn't really anyone at the state level that we can turn to for our local issues, because they are ultimately responsible for our local air quality. And I wanted to also remind folks that no matter where you live in Southern California, you are represented by at least 2 of these board members. And so I see in the chat, somebody asked about San Diego. I'll just name that these air districts are separated by how air travels in the state. And so San Diego is actually its own air district because of just the way air pollution travels in Southern California. So that's why it's LA, Orange County, San Bernardino, and Riverside County. And so each of these board members is not elected to this board. They are appointed by different entities and bodies. And so some of these individuals represent the county, so the County of Los Angeles or the County of Riverside. And some of these folks also represent the city. So some of you all may come from the city of Pasadena, the city of Long Beach, or the city of Moreno Valley. And so some of these representatives are representing your cities on this board. And we just wanted to show this to emphasize that even though oftentimes we may not know who our air regulators are, they are actually still responsible for representing your area and the interest of your community. And I think a lot of you know from personal experience, they often don't represent the interest that we feel like we need to see very well. And so part of the reason we're here today is to really ensure that the board members on Friday really hear all the concerns and why we need this rule. So on the next slide, I just want to show you all an example on how these elected officials are also influencing other decisions that affect our life. So I mentioned before that many of these board members are also elected officials. There's often mayors, or there's county supervisors, or their city council member. And they often sit on other boards that will also affect either warehouse development in your city or in your community, or could affect investment dollars either in transportation or in other regional planning. So just as an example, Larry McCallan, who represents the city of Highland, he is the mayor of his city, as well as the former president of the San Bernardino Transportation Authority. So he has power by holding multiple seats that affect decisions that affect our air quality. So I just wanted to give this an example because often we don't know how these people got on these seats, and we have to make sure that they feel accountable to us. And so don't want to spend too much time here, but each of the board members really has a responsibility to be accountable to the communities that they represent. Next slide, please. And so finally, I just want to close out that part of why we see the warehouse indirect source rule as a critical rule to be passed is that the current problem is the status quo that we see and many of you experience, is that goods movement pollutes with fossil fuel combustion, where the warehouse indirect source rule, we really see it as bringing about a shift towards cleaner technology that is really powered by zero emissions and renewable technologies. So I want to hand it off to Taylor to talk about the data that really shows who is paying the price for the pollution that we see as the status quo, and hopefully some of the relief we can see from this rule.
Thank you, Carlo. Next slide, please. So good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Thomas. I use she, they pronouns. I'm with East Shark Communities for Environmental Justice. We are based on Tongva lands. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of information on these slides. We will be emailing these out to folks, so don't worry about trying to capture all of the information. It will be accessible to you later. So I'm going to be talking about the impacts of warehouses and what the indirect source rule will be doing to address those impacts. And so we know where these massive warehouses and truck and van depots are going, right? They're placed in working class BIPOC communities. And you see on this slide some of that important statistics. So 85% of the folks who live close to warehouses are folks of color, and almost 700 schools in Southern California are within a half mile of a warehouse. And so for us, this means trucks idling outside of our homes and outside of our children's schools every day. Next slide, please. And we know what the impacts are from breathing in those emissions from those trucks in particular, right? It's higher asthma and cancer rates, decreased reproductive health, right? These are nothing new for our communities. We know how we're exposed. We know the health harms that these create. And so these images are just showing that correlation between the emissions that we're exposed to and the negative health harms that we experience. Next slide, please. So who's the most susceptible? So beyond the health impacts residents that live around warehouses experience, we also need to acknowledge the impacts that the workers in these warehouses face. Workers have faced rampant abuse from wage theft to health and safety violations to union busting, right? And all of this was made worse during the pandemic. And so these are just snapshots of some articles about those experiences that warehouse workers have had. Next slide, please. And so warehouse workers are essential workers. They can't work from home. And because these large corporations and companies prioritize their profits over everything, warehouse workers experienced high rates of COVID cases and deaths because they were not given PPE, they were not given access to testing, and they were provided with no health and safety benefits. So again, on this slide, you see more articles about the treatments of workers. Next slide, please. Ooh, excuse me. And so it's important to uplift that these are large, profitable corporations that we're talking about. These are not, the small mom and pop businesses that industry likes to claim. And the warehouses that will be covered under this rule are massive and have been largely unregulated for many years. And they've enjoyed tax subsidies and avoided treating their workers with dignity and mitigating the pollution that they create. So the rest of us end up paying with our health. Next slide, please. Okay, so all right, we're opening up. Do folks have any questions so far? There are a lot of people in the meeting, so maybe if you want to put yourself in stack by typing stack in the chat. Joanna, I'll go to you first if there's anyone on the line who has a question. And if you are unmuted right now, please mute yourself so there's no background noise. So Joanna, I can't see you.
Lucy is on stack.
Okay.
I don't know if Joanna has anyone, but Lucy is on stack in the chat.
Okay. All right. We go ahead, Lucy.
Hi, sorry to be a stickler about this, but what are the proportions of Black and brown people in the general population around those warehouses? Because that would be, another strong comparison. I would just like to know that if you know it all.
Are you asking about what is like the specific ethnic breakdown for the communities around the warehouses? Okay.
No,
I understand.
we're saying there's a large, or 85% of the people so close to warehouses are people of color. What percentage of people in the whole area are people of color? You see what I'm saying? Like
Oh,
in San
yes,
Bernardino.
that's
or
a great
whatever.
question. I want to say that that's in the report. I don't know if someone can drop a link to that, but I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah.
Taylor, let me just add, according to the report, we have the California average, which is 64% of is usually people of color for California communities. That's the statewide average. I don't know what the average would be for Southern California, but I would imagine it's usually a bit more diverse than the rest of the state. Let's just say that.
Are there any other questions on anything we've talked about so far? Joanna, nothing on your line. Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep going.
Taylor, there's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ricardo.
Let me see.
Ricardo's on stack in the chat. Go ahead, Ricardo, and unmute.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you all for that presentation. It's really good to see everyone again. And thanks for taking the time to put this together for everyone. I'm just curious to know, what is one one of the incentives built into the rule that we should be aware of and be advocating for during our public comment? Is there anything in particular that aligns more with what we are all here for, which is cleaner air, environmental justice, or do we just advocate it for it in general? I mean, generally speaking, we all want this to happen, but I'm just curious to know if there's any specifics within the rule that highlight everything.
Yeah, great question, Ricardo. We're going to get to that later in the presentation. So thank you for asking. We are definitely going to talk about that.
Awesome, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. I guess we'll keep going. This is good. I hope that means that everything is making sense so far. All right, Angie.
All right, Taylor, thanks so much for all that information. I know you have a lot more for us, but right now we're gonna head over to a poll question. Yeah, I'd be loving these poll questions. So a question is, does air pollution affect you or your family's quality of life? So go ahead. We'll give you all a few seconds, or a minute to answer this question. And yeah, we'll give you the results. Once again, the question, does air pollution affect you or your family's quality of life? All right. I feel like I should have some elevator music or something. All right, and the results are in. 78% of y'all said, yes, it affects my health and life. So either yours directly, a family member's, loved one, that's a lot of folks. 8% somewhat, I believe it does. And then 5% said, I don't know yet. And then 8% said, no, I'm here to support the movement. So, all right, thank you for answering that. And I'm gonna hand it back over to Taylor who's going to drop some more knowledge and some more information on y'all.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what does this rule actually do? What are we here for? What is going to be discussed on Friday? And so the indirect source rule as it's currently proposed will apply to warehouses that are over 100,000 square feet. This rule will start in 2022. As you see on the slide, there will be a phase-in for facilities that are under 250,000 square feet. And the way that warehouses will be able to comply with this rule is through what's called a WARE menu, WAIRE, which stands for Warehouse Actions and Investments to Reduce Emissions, which is going to be a menu of options that warehouses can choose from to accumulate points that will bring them into compliance with the rule. And so it's very important to uplift that this rule will actually only apply to about 10% of warehouses in the region. More than 30,000 warehouses will not be subject to this rule. And this is especially hard on communities in South and Southeast LA, where there are a lot of small warehouses, and often they are clustered together, so their impacts are magnified. But this just goes to show you the loopholes that exist in the policies that these agencies create that are supposed to protect our public health. Next slide, please. So what will be on that WARE menu? Like it says on the slide, warehouses can choose from either making on-site mitigations or off-site mitigations called investments. And these investments can look like zero emission trucks, zero emission charging infrastructure, placing air filters in nearby sensitive receptors, solar panels. There's a lot of different ways for them to comply with this rule. They can also pay a mitigation fee, or they can do a combination of these two things, either making mitigation on or off site or paying a mitigation fee as well. And so, yeah. Next slide, please. And so unfortunately, there have been some last minute changes to this rule due to industry pressure. The rulemaking process for this has been underway for, I want to say 3 years. It feels like this has been going on nonstop. I don't recall at this point. And so at the last hearing for this, which was a month ago, there were staff has since responded to a lot of the industry pushback. And these are some of the changes that have been proposed by staff to be included in the rule. And so that includes a 6-month delay to the start of the compliance period, an inclusion of a sunset provision if federal and state ozone standards are met. We have state and federal air quality standards that AQMD legally has to meet within the next few years or face action from the government. And so AQMD thinks it's a good idea that if these standards are met, which I personally don't think they will be met, that they should no longer have this regulation in place. And then there's also an inclusion of more near zero technology options for compliance, like yard trucks that rely on renewable natural gas. And so, you know, we don't support this because not only is near zero technology bad for the climate, it's also bad for our health because it requires the increased and continued use of fossil fuel infrastructure, which carry the risks of leaks, fires, and explosions from the various pipelines, storage tanks, and fueling stations that are in our communities, right? There was a leak in Downey a few weeks ago. You know, folks who live next to storage tanks, particularly folks in Inland Valley with the Omnitrans facility have experienced negative impacts from those. We all know about Porter Ranch. And so we know that this infrastructure carries a lot of danger for our communities. Next slide, please. So despite what industry and some politicians may say, there is not only a need for this rule, but there are a lot of benefits to it as well. Not only will it reduce regional air emissions, but it will also help to create clean energy jobs, whether that's through solar roofing, building and installing charging infrastructure, and even the manufacturing and deployment of zero emission vehicles and equipment. And so, our communities deserve quality, well-paying jobs that don't impact our health through low wages and extreme physical stress and injury. Next slide, please. So what are we asking for? Ricardo asked this earlier. We are definitely advocating for increased stringency, making the rules stronger. As we've seen, there is interest from the board in weakening the rule through the things that I mentioned on the previous slide, pushing back the compliance date, allowing more near zero options, having a sunset provision. And so we need to push back on that because that's not what our communities need. That's not what our region needs. It definitely will not do what we need it to do, this rule, in order to reduce emissions and not just bring, those emissions down in our communities, but put us on a path to a clean, renewable energy future. And so, I definitely want to highlight and uplift that including renewable natural gas in this rule will have negative impacts on us for years to come. Next slide. Okay. We are back to questions. That might have been a lot to digest, and we do have a breakout session after this where we can dig into these more. But are there any questions right now? I will ask Joanna. Yes, we can pause for our interpreters.
Thanks, Taylor. And I believe our interpreters actually may be trying to switch off. So I believe Daniel has been doing a great job, and I believe his colleague, Benny, is trying to be spotlighted. So Deanna, if you could help us with that.
Okay, I'm searching. Just one moment.
Shout out to Joanna for also helping us ensure we have Spanish translation as well.
How's that?
Don't see Benny spotlighted.
Okay, see him again.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you.
So Taylor, you got the stack on lock?
Yes. So Laura, you were first in stack.
Yeah, I'm wondering how the orgs that have been working the closest or policy folks that have been working the most on this feel about the mitigation fee. Just because someone referenced it in the stack, but it caught my attention that mitigation fee comes off to me as cap and trade kind of deal. So I wanted to get folks' thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll speak for myself. Again, my memory is so bad. I know we've been talking about this for years and months. We were definitely not fans, definitely not okay with polluters having the option to pay their way out of reducing their emissions. But unfortunately, staff has not really budged on this. And so we haven't really been able to move the needle on it. And so, if folks, well, I'm not going to tell you what to say on Friday, but if that's a concern you have, I would encourage you to uplift it on Friday or email your comments in. Thank you. Kitty?
Yes, thank you. And this is excellent, by the way. I was also going to ask for some more information on the mitigation fee and specifically where it goes, or if that is in the rule anywhere, where and how it might be used to benefit the communities most affected.
Taylor, I can take that one. So great question. There's been a lot of feedback to the Air Quality Management District on how the fees should be spent. And so the short answer is that it's still in development, in that they haven't set the specific criteria or rules on how the money will be spent. But there are certain guidelines where it has to be spent on projects that are local and that the funds have to also stay local. So the Air District has smaller districts where they try to zoom in on local areas that have particularly bad hotspots for air quality. And so they will use those same zones or or smaller districts, as it were, to be able to ensure that if there's a warehouse in that community that's paying the fee, then the money for projects in that community are coming from that fee that the warehouse paid. So all the funds would stay local and would go to projects that are related to air quality. There is still some debate on what type of projects should be permissible or approved. And I think that's all still part of the conversation that will be still taking place after this Friday.
Okay, I think Darby was next in the step.
Hi, thank you. So my apologies for the ignorance, but are there any warehouses that are under 100,000 square feet? And if so, is this going to affect them at all, or is there a plan for those warehouses?
Yes, so there's several thousand warehouses that are under 100,000 square feet. Right now, AQMD's approach is they want to start with the biggest ones first and get the rule and program rolling out and work out the kinks before they move on to smaller warehouses. So again, there's disagreement around whether that's the right approach, but that's where AQMD is at right now.
Thank you for that. So over 30,000 warehouses in Southern California, this rule will only cover 3,000, from what Carlo de la Cruz said. Oh, okay, thank you all for that.
Welcome. Thank you for your question. Jocelyn? Jojo?
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah. So my question was around enforcement, right? I think historically AQMD has that track record of not doing their job, and it's always up to community to advocate for enforcement. So I was just wondering what the plan is for the rollout of enforcement for the ISR if it goes through.
So I think this is also in the bucket of to be determined. And you're right, where it's a really important question, and it's an important conversation once the rule is adopted. The only way that the enforcement conversation has been brought up currently has been around what will be the requirements of the warehouse owners or operators and facilities. And so I think it's worth mentioning that they will be required to post the data that they will be collecting under this rule on some type of public portal. So right now, warehouses that are even built in your backyard are not required to share information on what type of trucks are coming in and out of their facility, how many trucks. And under this rule, they will be required to report that information on an annual basis. And AQMD is committed to making that information available. Now, can an industry do shady business and fudge the numbers? I think we all know industry. So it's up to us to ensure that enforcement works. And also just add that part of the fee that industry will be paying will also be covering the administrative cost of implementing this rule. So the idea is that if there is enforcement, industry would actually be paying the cost of that enforcement as part of this rule.
Go ahead, Lucy.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, once again about the whole question of energy efficiency, because, if we build lots and lots and lots of, this is a great place to start. If we build lots and lots and lots of solar panels, but we don't think about where the minerals are coming from, it could lead to more danger. But not more danger than fossil fuels. But if we can be efficient, then that helps cut that down. Just a question, what kinds of energy efficiency thinking has gone into this rule?
I'm gonna say I'm not sure. That has not really been communicated out through staff. I think on our end, on the organizations who have been working on this, we're also working on the energy side to make sure that our grid gets cleaned up. Yeah, but to be honest, I'm not sure what angle AQMD is taking on that approach.
Yeah, I think they would use one of their favorite phrases, which is it's not their jurisdiction. And that other agencies like the Public Utilities Commission is responsible for authorizing programs that would give money to the utilities for programs like energy efficiency. And so I'm not trying to defend them, but just I think they would point to the fact that utilities like LADWP and SoCal Edison have funding pots that they are actually supposed to spend down in providing installation of energy efficiency upgrades to both residential and commercial customers. Now, we know from our energy advocacy on that side that both the state of California and utilities are behind on their energy efficiency targets. So it's probably not a surprise that when we look at the energy usage for a lot of these buildings, they're probably not great when it comes to their energy usage or the leakage of heat or other things. And so we haven't directly addressed it in this rule, but I will say that we supported the inclusion of solar as one of the options, like my background photo here shows, because we know that some warehouses like my background are already using rooftop solar, and that by providing on-site solar, it reduces the energy need that they need to pull from the grid. And although California is some of the cleanest power in the country, until we get to 100%, it won't be cleaner than rooftop solar can be locally. So part of the intention is to reduce the energy load that they're taking from the grid, thereby reducing the climate impacts that energy generation may have if it comes from combustible sources like coal or natural gas, fossil gas, or oil.
Thank you, Lucy. Okay, Heather, you're next.
Thank you. I have a two-part question. I was hoping to get some historical context in terms of what are the air quality standards and are they currently being met? Have they been met over the past several years? And what are some resources that you could point us to that confirm the metrics that air quality has worsened since the warehouse boom, and particularly expanded during the COVID increased shipping demands?
Okay, so your question was, what are those air quality standards that we mentioned earlier in the presentation? Yes, so We are, California has been delegated its own air quality authority through the Clean Air Act. Carlo is so much more smarter than me. He can correct me if I'm wrong. And so we have, our state has certain federal air emission standards that it needs to meet for different categories of pollutants. And so our region has been out of compliance in a few categories for several years. I want to say that there's one or two that we've never been in compliance with. I think it's ozone and something else. I'm sorry, I should know this, but you know, hey, we're all learning. I'm not that smart, y'all. I'm just learning like y'all are too. But yeah, so we have been out of compliance for a few federal air standards for many years. And a lot of that has to do with our regulators failing to pass rules and regulations and giving polluters incentives, delaying rules, doing all the things that they're not supposed to do. They're supposed to regulate, they're supposed to get polluters into compliance. So that, you know, Carlo will give like the better technical explanation. That's just, you know, my little quick hood explanation. And then your second question, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, I was just hoping if you could point us to some resources that would give us some metrics to prove that the air quality has worsened since the warehouse boom, and particularly during the increased shipping demands that the pandemic lockdown presented.
Okay. Yes, so we will be dropping some reports. I believe we'll be sending those out via email. We had too many slides and didn't want to include them on the slides, but we do have some of that information that we'll be sharing with you all. Yeah, Carlo, did you want to add anything?
Just that, yeah, everything you said on the air quality regulations is spot on. And that even though California does have the ability to require better and cleaner standards from our emissions and our vehicles in transportation, everywhere in the country is obligated to have the clean air standards by the federal requirements. And so that includes, it's essentially that our air can't be polluted with too much of any one type of pollutant. And the federal air quality regulations define what that threshold is, where we can't have too much ozone or too much diesel particulate matter, also known as diesel PM, before the air quality becomes too hazardous. And so the regulations Taylor and other folks have been referring to are really decades old regulations that we unfortunately have never met. And they really go back to, 1979, a regulation on ozone standard that we are still trying to meet. So over the last 40 years, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, unfortunately, has never met a federal air attainment standard. We've gotten very close to a PM standard, but we have never gotten close to the ozone and smog standard. So that's why this rule is really important, because we really see that without this rule and without a way to transform the goods movement industry, we won't ever have clean air in Southern California during the summer.
Thank you, Heather, for your questions. And thank you, Carlo. So we have, where's the stack? I think we have, okay, Yvonne, and then after Yvonne, Daryl and Daniel. So Yvonne.
Hi, I just wanted to ask again about the mitigation fees that they're requiring, and the fact that it has to be spent in the communities. So I didn't know this. So they don't actually have a program in place yet for how those monies are going to be spent. I'm trying to understand if that's what it is, because if that's what it is, this is sounding very, very familiar as a tactic that the SCAQMD has done in the past, where they leave certain things up in the air And oh, no, we'll work it out later. We'll work it out later. So they go ahead and they pass some rule that is already kind of a bitter pill for people to swallow, but they give us all these reassurances it's going to be okay. And then when they finally get to the, oh, here's how we're going to do this, it turns out that the reason why they didn't want to tell you how they were going to do that is because if you'd known, they would have had greater pushback against passing that rule in the first place. So my fear is it would be very easy to say, well, as part of our mitigation, you need to buy air purifiers for the surrounding sensitive receptors. And that sounds like a great idea. But the detail is what type of models and how long do those units last? Because if they're only required to buy the cheapest model on the market and it runs, it quits after 6 months, that's not going to be helpful to the community. So that is my really big concern. And I think one of the things we probably should be asking for is more fence line monitoring, so that we can actually have the data to prove whether or not they're meeting their obligations. That's it, I'm done.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Yes, I agree. I mean, these are the same tactics that we have been dealing with for many years, and really, speaks to the importance of folks being vigilant and participating in the rulemaking. But unfortunately, these agencies do not make it easy for us to participate. Thinking about the meeting on Friday, yes, it's virtual. There may be Spanish interpretation, but most of us cannot stay on one Zoom meeting all day. If it was in person, even more people than that could not even get to Diamond Bar, let alone stay there all day. So it's just speaking to these processes that are in place for us. And, I encourage you to get more of your neighbors out, get more of your friends out, because unless we push them to change, they're going to keep doing business as usual. Thank you, Yvonne. I think Daryl and then Daniel was next. So Daryl.
Okay. I want to know, are most or all of these warehouses owned by the premier pandemic profiteer Bezos and all his filthy old diesel trucks coming back and forth from the port? Or is there some other companies that, because I want to know who to hate the most with the large warehouses?
Yeah, great question. So a part of the reason why we have been supporting this rule is because we'll be able to get that data. A lot of it has been kind of secret, and also because, these companies they won't be on the outside unless they're Amazon. But even in the case of Amazon, sometimes they'll sublease a place, in which will then sublease, there's all these different contracting and leasing things that folks can do to kind of hide who's in there. So like if you go past a large warehouse like Prologis, for example, you may not know what companies are actually driving their goods through there. So a part of this rule is being able to have access to that data, but generally it's kind of, a not so big secret that yes, a lot of these corporations, and specifically the ones that specialize in the goods that we purchase, like Amazon, like Walmart, like Target, are the ones that are driving this warehouse development and have their goods stored in these larger warehouses. Thank you. Okay, and then we have, I think the last person in the stack is Daniel.
Hi, yeah. So first of all, thanks a ton for this. This has been really extremely educational, and thanks for presenting, Taylor, the whole team there. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daniel, you're cutting off. We cannot hear you.
Daniel, it looks like you're on mute. I don't know if you accidentally muted yourself.
Okay. Yeah, and then I think after this, we'll go to our breakout groups. Maybe, Deanna, if you want to change the slide, and then so folks can start preparing on how to self-select for a breakout group. And yes, we'll have more time for questions at the end. Yeah, well, maybe while Daniel is typing their question, I think Yasi, are you gonna
Yep.
explain this slide?
Thank you so much, Taylor. Wow, you did an incredible job answering all those amazing questions, and just really grateful for everyone's questions as well. My name is Yasi. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm with the Sierra Club. And we're gonna split up into breakout groups just to reflect a little bit about what we've heard about the AQMD's power and how we can sort of hear each other out and share our feelings about what's going on Friday. If you are a Spanish speaker, please stay here. Do not press join. We have a picture here on the slide. If you prefer Spanish, please stay here. For ASL interpretation and preference, join room 3 with our comrades in Orange County. And each room, you'll see a button on the bottom of your bar. And for folks who are might have technical difficulties, we're here to accommodate as best as we can. So just be patient with us. You'll see a breakout room. I don't even see it for myself yet. Little window thing. We tried it earlier, it should work. That says breakout groups. And when that pops up, you can select to which room you'd like to be in. So if you're in the northwestern area of Los Angeles, I heard somebody from Palos Verdes. I think that's in West LA, right? I don't know LA. Is that not in Palos Verdes? No, it's not. Okay, it is. I'm confused. I don't know. I don't know.
South Bay?
Yeah.
South Bay?
It's a South Bay? Oh, okay, my bad. See, I'm an Inland Valley rat, or I know Orange County, North Orange County, but so if you're there, if you're in West LA, North LA, hopefully you know where that's at. If you don't talk to me, talk to like Carlo or Taylor or Deanna. If you're in Southeast LA, you're gonna be in room 2, and once you're able to self-select, just click that. If you prefer ASL interpretation, and also goes for our interpreters, go to room 3. And if you're also from Orange County, you're in that room. And then for Riverside County, you're going to be in room 4, and then in San Bernardino County. And then we're going to have facilitator leaders in each room. So I believe Carlo is going to be the leader for room 1, Taylor room 2, D in room 3, that rhymed, Darby in room 4, and Roxana in room 5. So thank you so much for bearing with it. And I'm ready when you're ready, Deanna. You should be seeing a little breakout rooms button here. And perfect. Yep. Folks are self-selecting. Great. And you have 15 minutes in your groups. So Deanna will send a message.
I'll let everyone know when there's 5 minutes left, and then when we have 1 minute left. I'm back.
Awesome. And I'm sorry for any geography I got wrong. Okay, cool.
And if you'd like help getting into a room, I can go ahead and manually join.
I need help. I'm on my phone. I need help.
Okay, sure, Daryl. Which room should we?
I need to go to room 2 and I'm on, it's so tiny, I can't punch it.
Okay, sure, I'll do that. And then, Ralph, would you like help getting into a room? You're on mute. Okay, let me unmute. See if I can help you unmute.
Well, I need help. I need to go to room 4.
Oh, sure.
I'm on
Is
the
this-
phone. I'm not in this room.
Okay, sure. Let me put you in the corner. All right. Karen, would you like help getting into a room?
Hi, this is the interpreter here. I don't think we got any window
Okay.
letting us know we can join chat room 3.
Okay, I'll add you.
Thank you so much. There's 2 of us here as well.
Hi, I haven't been able to get into a break room.
Darby?
Yes, Darby.
Okay, which one would you like to go into?
Whichever. I'm not going to be picky.
I'm gonna find a room that needs a little love. Darby, I'm gonna put you in Riverside. And they've all got love, but just trying to even them out.
Okay, thank you.
But with that, you're staying here with me and Mark and Ryan. Would you like to be added to a room? Are you here? You're staying here for the Spanish interpretation. That's good.
Were there folks on the Spanish interpretation?
I thought I saw one. Let's do it.
Okay, thank you for that, for the update. For folks still in the main room, are you there by any chance? If not, it's okay. Yeah, I think you should be good. You can take a break, please. Uh, it- like the interpreters are so amazing, like all of them. Like I was watching the ASL one because I haven't really been on any events that have the ASL interpreters. I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then Joanna was here like doing the whole time. I'm like, yes. Hello, Daniel. Daniel, were you already in the breakout room or do you need to be into a breakout room?
Yeah, I'm going back to the South and Eastern LA County one. Thank you for letting
Great.
me in though. More internet problems.
Yana, are you ready for your, is this going to be your first summer living in the desert or how you lived there before you moved there?
Yep. It's my first summer here, but I grew up in Mexico. We didn't, where I live, you know, is coastal and it never got to 120. I'm feeling pretty good that it was like 93 today and I didn't need to use the AC. Like this house stays pretty cool. Feel lucky for that.
My goodness. You're like, I can do this. I can mentally prepare myself for like 120, 108.
Wow. But 90 to 120 is a big. Let's see. So we have some new folks. I can help. Daryl, can I help you get back into a group?
Daryl's muted.
I was trying to get into group number 2. Somebody has to move me. I can't do it.
South and Eastern LA. Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone had jumped in, but I think maybe they jumped off.
Breakout groups.
Sunset Pizza.
Hi, Mark. Are you trying to speak to us? Did you want help getting into a breakout room?
That's not yet.
The Southeast LA one is popping. There's like 20 people on there. Like 18, 20.
Yeah. Let's see. Who's facilitating? Taylor.
even though we had like a lot of questions this time around, I feel like the timing of the webinar was a lot more smoother, like for the slides and presentation, because we're on like time to end at 7:30. No, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I agree. I felt like having each side went really, really well. And so it looks like we're gonna bring folks back at 7:25. So in 2 minutes, I'll send just like a 5-minute warning. Where are you, Yvette? Part of the desert.
Moreno Valley. So it doesn't get as hot as you all. But I have been thinking about like buying property like in like the Joshua Tree, like 29s, like Yucca Valley area as like my first property, just because I feel like I'm always in the desert anyways. I don't know, because right now it's at a really like low like rate where you could afford it. I feel like at least for me as like a first time buyer. And then I know there's like just so much around it though, and like resorts and like a lot of the folks that live there locally like really afraid of like the resorts overtaking, and then like Airbnbs, and like there's a lot to it. So still thinking about it, but that's something I thought about. So definitely let me know how your experience is and how that's been going.
Yeah, I'm renting right now, but the people who I'm renting from bought this place like in October, I think, of 2020, and the value's already gone up so much. It's like I wish I had started to think about buying last year. I just never really, I don't thought it was possible. I don't know. I just, because I was in LA, it just seems so far from my reality. And so I've been looking here, and it's just a little more accessible, but it's so hard. Like in Joshua Tree, it's so expensive now. It's ridiculously expensive to buy. And I want a spot with, like, it can be a small house, like fine, but with on land, you know? And like at least an acre, and that's just so hard to find. But I'm in 29 Palms. Yeah, I'm looking at places, but definitely the community's been really, really great because there's a lot of like not just like families or people buying and creating Airbnbs, but it's like it almost seems like corporate like ventures that are coming, like investors, and then driving up the prices, and so many people here can't even find a place to live because if they're renting, the owner is selling because they can make good money right now.
Yeah, that's the investors. That's exactly who it's like, those same folks who are like they run like they have like 4 or 5 like vacation like homes, but it's like all like, yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, because like I was talking about that, like maybe like if I don't stay in the desert full time, like then making it into like an Airbnb, but then like is that weird? Like, yeah, so I've been thinking about it, but maybe I'll do what you do and like go stay for a while, like rent out if I do ever like want to do that. Or yeah, but yeah, it's so ridiculous how Airbnb like has, not Airbnb, but the folks that have the invest like the resources, the ventures, take advantage of things like that. Like I know when I was in Santa Cruz, that was a big issue. Like we didn't have housing because there's a lot of vacation homes, and then um, a lot of the homes that weren't vacation homes were getting turned into like Airbnbs. And so like there's like just a lot of like local residents and like students basically houseless, or like squishing in like 8 to 10 folks in like a 3-bedroom, and still paying like $1,000 a month.
Gotta send the message. Yeah, I think that I was like reading on some and bombs and like, this whole area like boards and Facebook like groups, and they're saying that like Palm Springs has some stricter regulations where you have to. I think one was like you have to live in the area if you own an Airbnb, or like you can only own one. Something like you can only own one. And like that makes sense, but still I think it's not strong enough. But I would like to live here and have like something else eventually that I can rent out just for my own, retirement, like financial security. It's just me, so I gotta. But we can keep in touch about planning that. You're welcome to come visit me too when you feel comfortable, when things are safer. All right, I'm gonna bring folks back. All right, so everyone has 60 seconds now. And I'm back to the room. Welcome back to those who have already returned. The rest of the groups will be back with us in about 25 seconds. All right, so do we have everyone back? It looks like.
Yeah, I think we do.
Wonderful. Let's move on. We're going to have another opportunity for questions, and I hope we got some good reflections going on. And this last part, Angie and I are going to be tag teaming here. So Dion, whenever you're ready for the next slide. Go for it, Angie.
All right, so we have a call to action. The Air District Action declares you to support your support all on Zoom and telephone for now, as we have been explaining. Spanish translation is available. So May 7th, even though the meeting starts at 9 in the morning. Okay, Bad Bunny wants to act up right now. May 7th at 1 p.m., we think that public comment, they'll get around to about 1 p.m. or so. And this is a big vote, y'all. Folks have been working on getting us here for at least over 4 years, maybe 5+ years. So thank you to community. Thank you to everyone who's been fighting the good fight. And it's gonna be agenda item 27. So we ask folks to join us to make public comment. Also, if you're not able to hang around all day, we totally get it. Maybe record yourself and post it on your social media and tag AQMD board, or maybe do both. But any way you can participate, please do so. So May 7th, we'll see you. And next slide.
Yeah, so thanks, Angie, for setting us up. Definitely, if you raise your hand on the Zoom, that means you're in the queue to speak. And also to expect that you'll have only 1 minute to speak. We've heard from AQMD staff, they're expecting 300 comments. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's what we're expecting. Opposition is coming out full force. So quantity is key, especially for some of the moderate votes that we've heard, oh, I support the rule, but we can't trust them. Like, there might be some shady business that happens last minute, because many of you know this, we've been strung along for years, and this is barely scratching the surface on a rule for warehouses over 100,000 square feet. So please be patient, talk to your organizer. You know, if you'd like to get alerted, like let one of the organizers in your organization know, let one of us know, whoever. And so, yeah, and some of the talking points are really emphasizing on green jobs as well, because although we see the opposition organizing their trade unions, we also have trade unionists that want to see a just transition. So like, you know, we're really trying to build a movement across the aisle with Sierra Club and EJ folks and folks in the labor movement, folks in the faith-based community. Please, like, we need all hands on deck forever. You know, even from this rule afterwards, we have the refinery rule. We have these agencies cannot keep doing nothing to our health.
And this could also be a platform, like Yasi said, for all the other rules, and also for programs like AB 617, which most of our communities are a part of.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding
And a
that.
link about what AB 617 is as well.
Thank you. We can move on to the next slide, please. So if you're able to make a comment, sorry, this was added last minute and we couldn't make it a poll. So if you are, please, we want to track how many folks, if you're able to make a verbal comment, written comment, if you're a maybe in general, if you have no idea, just be honest, put it in the chat. Wonderful to see folks chatting. Please let us know if you need any more additional support. We're taking on a multi-billion-dollar industry here, which many of you are used to, I bet. So, you know, we just need as many voices, and appreciate your time in showing up. The industry is privileged enough, and they're probably paying people to be there, you know? So we really need to show and remind AQMD who's accountable or who they're working for. I saw somebody.
I'm sorry, real quick. It's crazy how they'll pay people to be there all day, but they can't pay to, you know, clean up our air and help community. It's crazy.
So yeah, it's ridiculous. It's corruption at its finest. Lucy, you no, not sign up at 9 a.m. Sign up around 1 p.m. for the agenda item number 27. We're expecting a really long meeting. The chairman Burke is retiring after 9 years. And I think there's going to be a lot of hoopla about that and his time there. And there's probably going to be more just fluff, for putting it politely. So
if you email us your number, right, Jossie, we have a little chat going on that we could put folks into a text group, right?
Yeah, and Lucy, I think Francis might be also in contact with you as well. Wonderful. Okay, and looks like we can move on to the next slide, Deanna. Thanks y'all for going a little over time today. Just follow us on social media if you haven't already, please, please, please. We're also gonna make this recording available. And one of our folks are gonna, yes, thank you so much, Deanna, for chatting in the social media toolkit. This is a toolkit you can copy and paste, use it wherever. Just close the pop-up, it's annoying. Yes, is there any way during the meeting we want to make it clear what organizations you are with and support the rule don't want to speak? Are you saying, Robin, are you saying for like a written comment? What organization and support the rule but don't want to speak? I'm not sure if I understand your question. I don't know if I'm brain dead right now.
So they would have a better idea of how many people are there supporting the rule. They may not be speaking, but they're there in numbers.
Sure. Yeah, we had a petition on Sierra Club, for instance, where we had 5,000 folks sign the petition. We're going to be having one of our representatives do that, but if you're able to to do that, if you're able to speak on behalf of an organization like that, sharing that you're coming from another organization, that's fine.
I think maybe what she meant, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, is like when we go in a group in person, we would all wear Sierra Club shirts, so you could see how many people were there with the Sierra Club supporting the rule. And so if somebody wants to go with their shirt and show that they're supporting, don't want to make a comment, is there a way to do that?
Thanks, Deanna. I hope that answers your question, Robin. All right, we can, any other questions? I think the next slide is a question slide. I'm gonna just chat my email here. If you have any questions or wanna reach out, actually I'll chat in my email and the Sierra Club folks. And then from our partners, anybody else who wants to chime in their emails, go ahead. I just wanna make sure y'all. Yes, we will follow up. Thanks, Angie.
All right. Well, if folks have any questions, go ahead and unmute or put them in the chat. I don't know if earlier I said, but if anybody has any questions or need anything, my name is Angie Valderas, organizer here in the region alongside Yasi with the Sierra Club, my Jen. Yeah, we're here to help anyway, and we hope y'all can make it on Friday. And also, if you're on Facebook, IG, don't be shy. Post your public comment and tag them. So
thank you so much. Can you post the, yes, can you post the meeting to social media? The AQMD meeting?
Yes,
Go ahead, Angie.
Oh, we could have it posted. Either the My Generation or we have a group that will do it.
Thanks, Angie.
Live stream?
The live stream, we can live stream it. And then to answer Daniel's question, Taylor, I think you could do a better job here, but the question is what we know about the less than 100,000 square feet warehouses. What are the impacts of those smaller warehouses and who lives near them? I think, yeah, please. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I mean, it's similar impacts from the larger warehouses. It's the emissions from the trucks, emissions from vans, and depending on the type of warehouse, the products can be hazardous as well. So in a lot of our communities, we have warehouses that store produce. And so the trucks that carry those have a piece of equipment on them called a TRU, which is, it keeps the food cold so it doesn't go bad. But that equipment has a lot of emissions. And so when those trucks are there, they're unloading, that they're idling those additional emissions into our communities. And so it's very different types of warehouses for different types of goods. Anything that we buy has to be, unless it's locally made, it has to be stored somewhere before it gets transported to us.
Thanks, Taylor.
I'm sorry, was there any other questions? I'm also on another Zoom call. So
oh my gosh, no worries. I think we can have Carlo take it from here, Taylor, so we can let you go. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Yvonne, Yvonne, you're on the stack. Thanks.
Yes, I just had a suggestion. When you're signing up with the AQMD, I'm trying to remember, I know they asked for your name. I'm not sure if they asked for your organization, but you can put down, I think if they ask for the organization, you can put down whatever organization you're supporting in that registration. And if they don't provide that, when you sign your name in, you could put in like parentheses, strong, indirect source rule, ISR, so that they'll know that that's what you're supporting. If you don't want to speak, but you want them to know that you're watching it and you support a strong ISR.
Thanks, Yvonne. They don't, so with the Zoom, all they see is your name. So when it's public comment time and you will, for example, want to raise your hand. We've even done it where we've like tried to change our names and say Yasi for clean air now. I'm a regular, so they like know me. But if you'd like to change your name, you can as a tactic to identify like your organization. But for right now, they just look at what's on your name. There's no like comment form or anything like that on the Zoom.
Okay. Because I just came from another meeting and they did allow you to put down your organizational affiliation. So that's why I thought maybe the AQMD was doing it too.
Maybe they will be. We'll get some, we'll find that out for sure. Thanks for flagging that though. That's super important. Any other questions? Really appreciate you all staying late. Your pronouns will be strong, ISR, love it on Friday. Great. Thanks, Darby. All right then. Well, if no one's gonna interrupt me with a burning question, we can wrap it up. Appreciate you all, and please don't hesitate to email us back. Go ahead, Angie.
Thank you, everyone. Shout out to our interpreters, Mark, Benny, and Joanna. Thank you so much, and everyone that joined us. Have a good night.